Hola familia, welcome to a super fresh episode of Soul Reboot. You know I am your host, Shaman and Mystic Alyson Charles. My next guest has a really wild and wonderful journey, an artist residency in Goa, India, and then later a plant ceremony actually gave him a beautiful download to launch an incredible company that is now revolutionizing company culture and the beverage industry. And on top of that, it might just make you rethink coffee. Please say hello to CEO and founder of Mudwater, Shane Heath. Hi, Shane.
Hey, how's it going?
So good to have you here. Let's connect. Let's take a little second here. I'm so excited to dive into this with you because you are really multi-talented and you do a lot of things. And I want to actually start with where you grew up in Santa Cruz, because it was at this time, because we're going to definitely dive into all things Mudwater and this whole brand that you are the founder of. But the fascinating part about your journey is that it starts with the art. So I want to begin there. When did you know that you had this gift to paint? And because your paintings are incredible.
It's came a long way though.
Yeah.
I think from an early age, I was always drawn towards creativity. My parents weren't artists, my friends weren't artists, but around the age of 8, one of my best friends, his mom is an artist. And I don't really remember this, but she would tell me that I would come over to play, we'd all go skateboarding, and then all of a sudden she'd be in her studio painting, and she'd turn around and she'd see me there watching her. And my mom recently found one of those surveys you fill out when you're really young where it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it said, I want to be an artist. So it was pretty young where I was definitely drawn to that. And then I think compounding on that was my dad was a builder, and he's been in the construction business for 30, 40 years and built all of the homes we lived in. And so I'd see architectural plans turn into these living spaces and tools around the house and just constantly building. And I think that I've taken that mentality and wanted to learn how to create myself. So art is one side of that, but design as well, and web design and packaging. And so I've always just loved taking an idea and bringing it into the physical realm. Well,
because you talk about that was really your first connection point to that flow state, right?
Totally, yeah.
And into, I as a shaman, I'm a channeler, and it feels like that's what occurs with you too, right? And so when were you first picking up on that particular vibration or state of consciousness?
Yeah, I remember the specific moment was my first real painting class. It was like the first year of college, and I was tasked to recreate a master's work. And, it was a big painting, 3 feet tall, 4 feet wide, and the biggest painting I've ever worked on, and it was for the first time a portrait. So it was extending my current capacity, or at least where I thought I was at, and it allowed me to grow. But there was this moment where I was maybe 4 hours into painting, and I just felt this connection where I was able to paint, 100 times better than I had previously. And I'd never felt that feeling before and didn't know how to describe it to myself, but I just knew that there was something special there, and something that I wanted to follow up on. So that was that first.
And was it almost like an alchemy or an energy line working with you and running through you?
Totally, yeah, because previous to that, I was thinking about painting. I was thinking about the techniques and thinking about what I was trying to do. And then all of a sudden it was just happening. And it was just very freeing feeling and something that I chased after for years later.
Co-creating with the universe.
Yeah.
And that's what's so beautiful is in a lot of shamanic traditions and mysticism traditions, artwork is very prevalent, right? Whether it's through beadwork or weaving or paintings from plant medicine ceremonies. These works of art are vehicles or transmission points for wisdom or for sacred teachings or for energetic medicine. So I'm curious with you, because I've seen a lot of your paintings and murals. Is there a particular medicine or energetic alchemy that you feel your artwork sends out?
I haven't really thought too much about that. I think for me, it's been very much an introspective thing, where I set aside time to paint and I can go through and process my feelings, my emotions, go through what's happened over that last week, and then the outcome is this expression that I feel really strongly about. And yeah, I'm not really sure what it would be received as, and I don't even know if I really think about that too much. Like, I just want to create for the sake of it, and then I get the feedback later after.
And so, yeah, so then let's touch on that really briefly. So your beginning point for a work of art, are you setting an intention, or you're just letting out what you've been through before that?
I mean, I kind of am working on 2 different series right now, and one of them is more, I have a vision in my head of what I want to create, and not necessarily a rhyme or reason, but I might find that out later during the process. And then I'm doing another portrait series where I interview homeless people, and that's much more of an intentional one, where I interview a homeless person. We basically have a podcast much like this, and I hear their story, like what brought them to where they are, and then I take a photo and I paint their portrait large scale in a format that would be reserved for maybe somebody that was influential or had this very powerful voice. Meanwhile, these people are kind of subdued to the side. So
yeah, no, I'm so glad. Like when you first shared with me that was the project you're working on, you remember how geeked out on that I was? I was like, wait, no, let's talk about this more.
Yeah.
You need to do more of this, or we need to get this out there more, because it's just, we all are one, right? You know, and I think the more vehicles to communicate that, and the more we talk about that, and the more ways we can express that we are just one shared humanity and we're all equal, the better. And so I think it's so beautiful, like you said, you're taking, because the portraits are huge, right? Like what are the size of them?
6 feet tall.
6 feet tall. And so, yeah, normally it's only reserved for celebrities or people in the public eye. And you're painting these, you know, other beautiful humans. And they have these incredible stories.
Incredible stories, yeah. Yeah, incredible stories and incredible perspective. But I think that there's this interesting thing when you're like shunned away from society, you can build up these, you know, mental imbalances. But the interesting thing is, like, you see that same extreme on the celebrity influencer side at times, where, you know, they almost are so famous and popular that they also feel somewhat secluded, and they're both kind of suffering from the similar thing, but just opposite sides.
Really cool. I can't wait to see this aspect of your work take off more. And so let's now, you know, okay, Santa Cruz, you're tapping into the flow, you're realizing, oh my gosh, this is something I really love. You're probably realizing this is one aspect of your calling here on Earth. And then it takes you to Goa, India, right?
Yeah.
You went there on an artist residency. So how did that all happen?
Yeah, so like fast forward, I was in college, I was studying art and design, and I graduated and joined a startup. I was working in Silicon Valley as a designer, doing a lot of interface UI design, and that's when I kind of fell in love with coffee, I guess you could say. Like I was just I was sold that dream that coffee was going to allow me to do more, do it better, do it faster, and soon I was drinking 3 or 4 cups a day, and I was experiencing anxiety. I was, you know, had the typical jitters, but it was more like this rise and crash throughout the day. And I became really skeptical of whether coffee was actually enhancing my performance in the office. And I was also training jujitsu outside of it. And so I just started to explore some alternatives, and nothing really matched that flavor profile. But I got invited to do an artist in residency program in Goa, India. And so I quit my job in Silicon Valley, moved over there for 6 months. And it was basically, I got put up with a place to stay. I had 2 studio spaces, one at the house and one literally on the sand.
Yeah.
And I got to paint and have a show that culminated the end of that experience. And that's where I fell in love with chai.
Yes, I love chai. And I have been off of coffee for about 3 years now. And I rode so many waves with it. And I'm so glad. It would no longer resonate with my being. Like on a cellular level, on an energetic level, my body was rejecting it. And so I quit. And so I've been drinking your mud water on a regular basis. And we're going to dive into all the ingredients, but because there's more than just chai in there. But I love that was the birthplace of this, of you feeling connected to this particular ingredient. And then you wrap your artist residency up, you come back and you just start whipping up your own, right? And you're just calling it mud. You're back here in California, and you just know you want to stick to this protocol.
Yeah, I mean, I moved back and I was painting and I was working back in the design space, but predominantly interactive design, so digital experiences. I had no intention to ever get into the consumer beverage space.
Right.
But yeah, I came back and I was using this really clean chai, and chai in and of itself is just an amalgam of spices and some black tea, so it mixes really well when you add other things to it. So at that time, I was still training jiu-jitsu a lot, and I was like, I'm gonna add some turmeric to it to cancel out some anti-inflammation. And then I was doing intermittent fasting, so I added a bunch of cinnamon to help with, you know, the appetite cravings, and then cacao sort of rounds out the flavor profile, but also has really profound benefits and mood and energy. And then I heard about all these mushrooms, and that's when it kind of became this like superpowered drink where I was adding lion's mane for focus and cognitive function, and cordyceps for the physical performance side of things. And
You're like a wizard in your
and then
kitchen.
chaga, but I mean, I'm really not. You ask any of my roommates, and they're like,
But
"This
with
is crazy that you're
this,
dealing."
yeah.
I mean, I was just kind of like following my intuition and interests, really, and I'd hear a benefit, and I was like, "I'm gonna try that," and it mixed in really well. But at the end, I just had this big hydro flask that I would have, you know, 9 tubs of ingredients and powders, and I'd mix it in every morning. And my friends were just like, "What is that?"
What are you doing?
Yeah, there's chunks of chaga floating in it, and I'm like, it's mud. And you know, it was more of just like a fun way for me to express what I wanted to be consuming. And it wasn't till maybe a year and a half later, I was working as a lead designer for an e-commerce company, which, you know, we're delivering a physical product. We have a subscription model built in the back end. And I was in the office where there's a lot of people that were either trying to kick coffee or trying to reduce that afternoon cup. And I would just be like, here, try this. And seeing people in the wild try this weird drink, this what I thought was just my own weird obsession.
Right.
I was like, oh, people might want this. And
it might be helpful.
yeah, and I ended up in May last year, I ended up having a little plant medicine ceremony. Mud was incorporated into that. And the next day I woke up and it was like this very strong epiphany, I guess you could say, but I don't even know if that would describe it, but I basically woke up and I was like, it was kind of like saying duh to myself. Like it was just like, of course, this is something I need to do, and the whole vision for the company, the brand, everything was in me. And I grabbed my computer and I built the brand, designed the packaging, put up the website, and within the next day I put up Instagram posts, and we were starting to get sales. And I didn't even know how to make the product at scale yet. I'd ordered packaging on Amazon. You know, it was just, I just got it out there, and yeah.
And look at you now.
Look at me now.
We're doing big things with the mud water. And that's what's so beautiful, is because you were truly, I just love all the facets and pieces to this story and this journey, because it all really is of sacred essences and sacred, you know what I mean? It's the artwork, it's being tapped into source, it's you tuning into your intuition, it's being in flow and co-creation with universe, it's sitting in sacred ceremony, and through that further opening, then it connected you to that you know, to that gateway to have that moment click in. And in my opinion, those are always the most genius ideas, are the ones. You know, the ones where you're just like, oh my God, the whole time right under your nose, right? And so let's just talk about mud water. Tell them, we touched upon some of the ingredients, but go ahead and just bang that out. What's all in there?
Yeah, so it starts with the masala chai, so that gives it its main flavor profile, and then combine that with cacao. So we've heard it tastes like if chai and cacao had a healthy ass baby. That's what someone said. And then it's mixed with cordyceps, chaga, reishi, and lion's mane. Those are all mushrooms. And cinnamon, turmeric, and a little bit of sea salt.
And there's lots of different ways you can whip it up and make it. You know, I tend to put it maybe with some coconut oil. I put it with ghee before, sometimes some coconut milk. How do you brew it up? Or hot water, of course, too.
Yeah, I mean, originally I was just making it in a giant hydro flask with just hot water, and some days it would taste good, some days it was a little too much of this or that.
Yeah.
Now I've fine-tuned the recipe, and I think it's great with just water. And the reason I made it like this without adding sweeteners or even like a coconut milk, which a lot of companies are doing, is I wanted it to really serve as a new morning ritual, similar to how coffee is black, and you can kind of adapt the flavor profile based on what you want. And so yeah, typically I'll put in, you know, a tablespoon into hot water, and then this is a new coconut creamer that we're developing.
Yeah, we got like a first look right here, right?
Yeah, this is just a sample, but I'll add a scoop of that into it a lot of times, and then use one of those electric frothers, because I mean, it is a powder, similar if you were to make like an instant coffee.
Yeah, it's raw ingredients.
Yeah, and so it can get a little muddy,
which is great.
Yeah, but I'll stir it up with one of those, and it's really good.
And the other thing that I love, so yes, everyone out there will tell you at the end, like where you can get mud water, and I highly recommend. It's part of my daily routine. But the other thing I have to make sure we have time to dive into is I'm obsessed with what you're doing with company culture, with what happens in the workplace.
Yeah.
So at your office, you guys do breath work, and you have on Wednesdays, there's no meetings and no phones, and like touch upon some of the rad
No
things.
food either.
No food. So yeah, talk
Yeah.
about what you do there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we sleep, we work pretty much, that's like the majority of our lives almost. And so if you can build in rituals within those, like essentially really healthy, intentional habits, you can have really profound effects on your life. So, you know, I have a lot of morning rituals that I do, but then when I was trying to think about how to build this company, it was like, I want everybody to, you know, be their top shape, like mentally, physically, spiritually, throughout their time with us, and myself included. So one of the things is what you're talking about is every Wednesday we have no food, no phone, no meetings.
It's amazing. Who does that?
And it's our favorite day of the week. And so we do a 24-hour fast. We leave our phones at home, and we, you know, partially with the no phone thing, we don't book meetings because it just makes it all easy. And what happens is we end up being extra focused, because when you're fasting, like you, at least for a shorter amount of time, including intermittent fasting, but a 24-hour fast, you really see the benefits. Like you are so focused, and you have tons of energy. And if you channel that towards the right way, like I just feel like a hungry lion, you know, like, and I just channel it towards a big project that requires a lot of mental energy and attention. So that's an amazing thing. We reduce a lot of our meetings. So we have a meeting on Mondays that we call our vision meeting, where we set our intention for the week, and the intention might be just simple, like to-do list, like what are we trying to do, but then maybe how we're trying to do it. And then we have a reflection meeting on Friday where we go over how did we do at doing those things. And then we'll have maybe a gratitude circle where we just give props to somebody on the team and maybe say something we're thankful for. And all meetings culminate with a round of breath work. Breath work's been a huge thing for me, both like holotropic breath work, but also like Wim Hof's breath work as well. And so we do kind of an amalgam of that, a shortened version. And it's been really cool, because I mean, that's been something that I do every morning regardless, but sharing it with the team where people are not as familiar with it. You know, the first time it's like, oh, this is weird, but then everybody, can we do another round? You know, now it's like this really fun way where people are able to, you know, tap in, where work setting can get really repetitive. And that's the whole idea, is to come up with creative new ideas. You want to break patterns and see things from new perspectives.
And also, I just think it's really cool that there's not a divisive nature about your life, you know. It's just because on the shamanic path, when people ask me like, what kind of ceremonies do you do? And I'm like, it's all ceremony, you know what I mean? And so I think it's just so beautiful. And I'm so grateful that with new CEOs and founders like us, we're creating a whole new paradigm of what an office environment looks like and how it functions. And it's such an integral part in the birthing of the new paradigm for the entire planet. So thank you for like doing all that you're doing, from the things that we can ingest to lift our vibration to what you're providing to your employees. So we always run out of time. I have 50 more questions for you, but I want to let people know you've got the Mud Hut, right? Like where can people, you can get it online, but where can they find it?
Yeah, so our office, we opened up downstairs. We have a little cafe set up, and we're testing out this concept of having donation-based cafes. We have an online subscription model, so the idea is we can give our product away for free if we are confident that a certain percentage of people are going to sign up and drink it ritualistically. So we have one in our office space, which is at 4700 West Jefferson, Mid-City, LA. And then we also have another one on Abbot Kinney, and it's inside of Vardigan. It's a store on Abbot Kinney that a lot of people have heard about.
Great.
So you can come in, try it. We also have these tins available, and we even will launch all of our new products. We'll launch it there about a month prior to launching online.
Yeah, a lot of exciting things going on for your company. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna swing by the Mud Hut. Thank you all for joining me on another fantastical Soul Reboot voyage. You can go to my website, AlysonCharles.com or RockstarShaman.com. I'll also get you there to see all the latest happenings. You can get your sustainably sourced Palo Santo at 10% off there as well. There's all sorts of goodies. So thank you all. Until the next episode, sending you so many high vibrations, love, light, and blessings.